Hello. Today we will be building and serving a static site, but with some of the parts of the site being hidden behind authentication. And
The whole
we
site,
have
the whole site.
Oh, the whole site. Sorry, even
Yes.
better, the whole site. So we have Hamel Husain today with us, who is an ML engineer, data robot, GitHub, Airbnb fame. Hello, Hamel.
Hello.
And today, to change things up a little bit, Hamel will be walking me through how to make it happen, how to create the site, how to put it behind authentication, and how to serve it. And you will have the pleasure to watch me stumble through, and hopefully we'll make it happen thanks to Hamel's expert guidance. How about
Yeah,
that?
I think it's going to be fun. I think you can do it.
Thank you. Hamel, why would anyone need such a thing?
Yeah, so we talked before about Quarto and the importance of writing and the importance of sharing knowledge. And one practicality that comes up in that is you don't always want to share knowledge with the entire world. Like, for example, if you're working at a company, you can't do that. You can't just put all the company information out there. And, if you're a data scientist, you might not really know how to make things private. Yeah, so that's one angle. Another angle is it's something that you use a lot, like you are likely signing into websites with Google or GitHub or something. And you may have wondered, like, how does that work? Like, what is this magic? Like, what is going on exactly?
Yes.
And, that technology is accessible to everybody, even with open source tools. You don't have to host that. That's another angle. Now, you don't need to know that, but it is fun and it's good to know. And, like, generally speaking, it is kind of a nice superpower to have. Like, you can throw up a site, make it private just within, like, the people that work at your company or people within an email list that you have. And so, yeah, it's nice. It's a practicality that comes up when you're trying to collaborate with a group of people and you're not necessarily wanting it to be public. I think and people have always told me that they struggle with how to figure that out. Like, most things, if you try to Google this, like, how do I make a static site private or how do I make a website private? You get into this really long rabbit hole of either, on one hand, there's like these very complicated hosting solutions and cloud platforms and serverless whatever. And you get lost in like all these things, or there's things like, okay, create a login flow in your website with like username and password and have a database that stores the username and passwords. But like, that's not what I want. I want a site that is already created and you simply just want to make it private. You don't want to change any code of the site at all. Okay. Like, you just want to make it private, like almost like GitHub pages. You know how easy GitHub pages are. You just, you have your stuff in the repo and it becomes a page. So like, just want to do that same kind of experience, but have a way of making it private to where you can put like there'll still be login, but you don't have to create the login. You don't have to do anything. You can just specify who you want to see it, and then they'll be able to see it.
Hamel, that sounds like magic. But all
Yeah.
right, I trust you that this is
And you are
possible.
going to be able to do this magic.
Oh la la, already excited. So, Hamel, let's make this happen. Let me share my screen. All right. So what I have on the screen right now is a repository from you where I believe you walk us through how to make that happen, right?
That's right. And so first I give you some blurb about why, why this might be interesting. We already talked about that. And then I give you this tutorial. It has 3 parts. You don't even need to do the third part. The third part was just for me, really, to like say, I also wanted to do this on Kubernetes, but we don't need to go there. If you are interested in that, you can totally look through that. And I don't give as much explanation in that part because, again, that part was sort of for me. I do give some explanation. So the first thing we do is we run it locally, just like you could do it on your laptop. And then the second thing we do is we deploy it, like we would make it public, or we make it hosted so that it's not local, using a free platform. But doing the first thing really helps understand the second thing.
Okay, let's see what we have here. First, install Quarto and run the following command. All right, so we'll be using Quarto, and I already have Quarto installed on my laptop, so I'm
Why don't you
running
clone this repo as well?
code.
Okay, and then go into this folder, the local folder. So cd local. So install Quarto is what you're going to want to do next.
Install Quarto. I already have it installed, I think. I'm pretty sure I do. Yep, it's installed.
Okay, so what you have here in your directory is like you have QMD files, which are markdown files. It's just Quarto markdown files. Yeah, let's look at one of them. So this is just a very simple text file. Take a look at it. That's the home page. And so, yeah, and look at that. Look at the contents of that. So the way we're going to secure our site is we're going to use this whitelist. So these are the only people that can see your site. Even you can't see your site right now until you add your own email to this. Okay.
That's how secure it's going to be. Beautiful.
So what you can do is, since you already installed Quarto, do Quarto preview.
Okay, and it's available on localhost. Wow. Okay.
Okay, so that's the site. That is your site.
That's the
now
site.
let's see what the next steps are.
So that first step we have done, and now moving.
And so, okay, what you really want to do is do this Quarto render.
Quarto render.
So that's going to render all the static files into an underscore site folder. See, it says output created site.html.
An honest static site. There's nothing too exciting happening here. So right, just a bunch of HTML and CSS files. Okay, cool. So we have this in the underscore site folder, and now right, this will create the directory underscore site. And now I am to create an OAuth app.
Yeah, click that.
And it took me to GitHub. Okay, so
I even have a note, like what you might be wondering, what is this OAuth 2 callback? It is something very specific to this OAuth 2 proxy. And this OAuth 2 proxy is the open source application we will use to secure your site. The OAuth 2 proxy expects the OAuth provider, which is GitHub, to send it information on that path. It expects information on the OAuth 2 /callback. We can look at, okay, there's this application called OAuth 2. If you click on that, these are all the endpoints. There's an endpoint of this OAuth 2, which is an application that you put in front of your website. It catches the traffic and it decides whether or not you can see the website. So these are different endpoints of this application. This callback one is the URL used at the end of the OAuth cycle. That just means that's what the OAuth provider, GitHub, Google, whatever we're going to use. We're going to use GitHub. That's what GitHub is going to send the traffic. They're going to say, when you sign in with GitHub, it's going to redirect you through there with some additional information that then this proxy is going to catch and say, okay, cool. Do I want to let them see the site?
Cool.
And we'll kind of discuss it. I don't want to overload you with what this is just now.
Of course. I think I'm starting to understand that we will have our site being served, and whatever it's serving the site, we'll also have the proxy application running, and we'll be hitting that proxy before.
Yeah. So let's talk about what is a proxy. Probably a lot of people don't know what a proxy or reverse proxy is.
Yeah. What are they?
So a proxy, if you look up the word proxy in the dictionary, it's someone who is authorized to act on your behalf.
Yeah, that's perfectly right.
And so what that means in sort of networking parlance, so proxy usually refers to outgoing traffic. Like if you're working at a company and you're trying to navigate to Facebook, they might block you. How are they blocking you? They have a proxy. And the proxy, what it does is it says, okay, it catches all the traffic, outgoing traffic, and it kind of says, it decides what to do with it. Should I just forward it on, or should I not do anything? Like, should I just block it completely? Ignore the fact that you're trying to look at Facebook while you're at work, or even like make you go somewhere else. It could make you go somewhere else, potentially, or it could even sniff traffic. You do all kinds. I mean, it's like, it's like in the middle. Reverse proxy is in the other direction. Like you're getting incoming traffic, and the reverse proxy decides what to do with it. Can block that traffic. It can send that traffic somewhere else. It can say whatever, or it can just say, you know what? Yeah, it can block it. It can send it somewhere else. It can rewrite the path. Like if you're trying to go to radic.com/podcast, your reverse proxy could say, you know what? We're going to redirect that internally to radic /YouTube or whatever. I'm just making this up, but you can do whatever you want to the incoming traffic and redirect it. So reverse proxy.
As simple as that. That it's something that sits in the traffic, and a proxy is in the outbound direction when you're on a network and are going out somewhere, right? That's the idea. And then a reverse proxy is if you have the source of traffic originating somewhere, and this can be me at my computer, and I'm trying to talk to some resource somewhere. So there's a proxy, a small piece of software, or it can be a complex piece of software sitting between me and the resource that I'm reaching out to.
And so like, what are we trying to do? So like, how is the reverse proxy going to decide whether or not it shows you your static site? So if you recall, we have an email list.
Yes, we had an email list there.
You want to share your screen. So you have an email list. And if you recall, there's an email list. And so what does the proxy need to know? They need to know what your email is. How are they going to know that? How are they going to know that? It's because you are going to sign into GitHub and you are going to request access to the GitHub user's email address. And GitHub is, after you sign into GitHub, GitHub is going to send your email address to this reverse proxy. The reverse proxy is going to check that your email is in that list or not. If it's not in that list, it's going to just say, you know what, get out. It's not going to send you, it's not going to let you see the site. But if it is in that list, then it'll let you through.
Awesome.
And that's one way. So the reverse proxy, like I said, is very flexible. And this like application has all this stuff built into it. It's just like this open source thing. It's very useful. So it's like you can use an email list. You can say, hey, I only want to show this site to people who are collaborators on our repo, or you only want to show it to a certain GitHub org, or you want to only show it to whatever else. Or if you're using Google as your OAuth provider, like if you want to sign in through Google, then you can say you want to map it to a certain Google group, or you can say you want only certain domain, like email domain, to be able to access this thing. So like you work at NVIDIA, you can say you only want NVIDIA.com email addresses to access this. And it's not just email driven. There's other ways you can do that. So that's one, so there's two things going on here. So the first part is, so like in security, when we're trying to secure this site, there's two components. One is called authentication. Authentication helps you identify who you are. Like, who are you? And like, we need a trusted, verified way to like, that we are confident to know who you are. So that's what this GitHub sign in, all that stuff. That's what it is. Like, we defer that trust to the OAuth provider, which is like GitHub or Google, to like, so we know that the email is the email, And then there's this aspect called authorization, where it's like, okay, once we know your identity, what are you allowed to see? So this OAuth proxy, like, a lot of people think of OAuth and it's traditionally thought it's just the authorization part, just the authentication part, the identification. And then it's up to you to implement your own authorization. But the cool thing about the OAuth proxy is it has this authorization in it. Like you can do this email list, you can do all kinds of stuff. And so it's a nice package to kind of just do everything, to do both pieces for the simple case where you just want to protect the entire site. Now, if you have some pages you want to show and some pages you don't want to show, then you have to implement that logic yourself. But that's not what we're doing. Anyways, I think I've talked too much about the OAuth proxy in abstract.
Oh, that was very useful. It introduced some foundational concepts. So thank you for that. That's appreciated. All right, so let's make it happen. So where were we? Okay, so step number 3, start the proxy and web server locally. Okay, first add your email address to emails list. Okay, let me do that. Next, generate a cookie secret by running Python a cookie secret. So I am to generate a cookie secret and to store it in the environmental variable. Okay, that worked. So I have it stored in my environmental variable, the auth2 proxy cookie secret. What is this,
so
Hamel?
you skipped a step, I think. So like we have to read the instructions carefully here. So did you make sure in the beginning, before step 3, we have to make sure we store the client ID and the client secret into those environment variables?
I didn't do that. I need to finish registering my application, right?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, that worked. All right, so we have that saved as well. That's just binding the port. So the port inside Docker will be bound to the port 4180 outside of Docker.
That's right.
The official Docker image. All right, so there's an image for the proxy. So we'll just pull down the image from the official Docker repository.
That's right. Yeah. So okay, why don't we let's look at the docs real quick for this OAuth2 proxy.
Sure.
So just
are you linking to them somewhere, or do I just go?
You can do OAuth2. Yeah, there you go, right there. Yeah, okay. And then click on configuration. You can go to installation. Let's look at installation if you like. So this tells you all the ways you can deploy it. You can download the binary, which is one way you could have gone about this. But I think the Docker container could be easier. We're doing option C using the pre-built Docker image. And then, okay, so if you go to the configuration, so this tells you what to do. This is how I got the information. I just copied and pasted a lot. I mean, this is exactly what you did in the README. You created that secret that you saw above. And then these are all the options for the proxy. And so, the things that you see in the Docker command, those are directly from here. The various options from here.
Got it.
So that's where they come from. That's how you find them. Okay. So let's go back and see. So, okay, like we know that we want to use GitHub.
That's where our static site will live.
So this upstream flag is really interesting. That allows you to redirect to another URL or it lets you serve a static site or static files. So it actually, this reverse proxy actually doubles as a web server itself, like a static. You can serve static files directly from the proxy. They have this. That's what this file colon does. If you look at the documentation, they'll mention this. Actually, let's look at the documentation and see what it says about, and just do upstream. Yeah, search for that, and can click on the right hand side. You'll see the upstream configuration. Yeah, and it'll say, okay, like you can have multiple upstreams. You can forward, because like remember it's a reverse proxy, so it needs to know where to send the traffic to, right? And it says you can send it to a URL. However, the second paragraph says you can also have static file paths are configured as file colon. And so that's nice, because like you don't need a separate web server. You can just serve your static files if you like. So that's what that's doing. We're just doing that shortcut here.
No, that sounds awesome.
But you don't need to do that. You can have a separate web server and you can forward traffic to that. That the Kubernetes example does that, but we don't have to worry about that. And then, okay, so that's that. And then this says, okay, like, what the HTTP traffic, what port is it going to listen on? So I just hard bind it to 4180. That's why you have 4180 in your OAuth when you did the OAuth application.
Yes, right here.
Yeah, so that's why it's like that there. So fine. Okay, and the authenticated emails file, that's your whitelist.
And that's from the site config that we mounted here.
Yeah, you mounted it there. Folder. Yeah, exactly. You have the scope. The scope is, so when you redirect somebody to an OAuth provider like GitHub or Google or whoever, you have to obtain consent from that person. And when you obtain consent from that person, you have to tell them what are you requesting. In this case, we are only requesting their email. So that's what the scope means. It says, hey, I just need the email. I just need your email. That's the only thing that we're going to do is get your email address.
Got it.
This other stuff, like maybe, okay, like these other two here, these are things I found through experimentation. Basically, you don't really have to worry about that. If you took that out, probably wouldn't make a difference. But I like the cookie to expire more quickly, and I didn't need additional information in the cookie, so I just put that there. The skip provider button, by default, this proxy thing has like a sign in with GitHub, but I don't really like that. I just like to just send you to GitHub. I don't even have a click on extra buttons to sign in GitHub. Like, no, who cares? Send to GitHub right away.
Yes, makes sense.
And then the next three things are the secrets that you diligently stored in those environment variables. And then this other thing allows for parallel requests. It just helps with parallel, if you have a lot of, you want concurrent requests, is something I read in the documentation. But, if you left that out, it would be fine. The cookie CRF thing, CSRF. And then the next things are kind of only for local testing. So, you wanted to redirect to this callback path locally. And also, like, your cookie is not going to be secure. You're only going to be using HTTP, because we're not going to do like, this self-signed certificates or HTTPS. We just want to keep it simple. Okay. And so, yeah, you can try to run that command. So now it's pulling the image.
Yeah, it's looking good so far. Go to this address. Okay, beautiful. And it's
okay, so let's stop
GitHub.
here. Yeah. Okay. Before you click on this, let's just like reflect on what's happening. So you try to go to your site. Your site has this OAuth proxy thing that's running in front of it. Okay. This is running locally on your machine. And what happens is it's redirected you to GitHub with a scope. And it says, please ask the user's permission to get their email address. That's what that user scope was about. And that's what GitHub is telling you. It says, hey, this application, you called it static site test, is trying to access your account. And what is it asking for? Personal user data, email addresses, read only. And so if you agree, if you trust this thing, or if you trust this thing, you will authorize it. You will say, okay, so try to authorize that.
Let's do this. I trust the creators of this application, so I'm clicking authorize Radek Osmunski. It worked.
Yeah. Okay.
Yay.
So now
we change the email address.
Let's go to emails. What is the emails? Email list. Okay. I'm gonna come in here. I'm gonna change my email, misspell it on purpose, refresh, get forbidden. I'm gonna try to sign in. It's gonna not even let me sign in, and go back, whatever. It's not gonna let me do anything. It might try to get me authorized again. It's gonna get me forbidden. It's not gonna we're not going to be able to get access. Let's change it back though. Let's take this and, spell it correctly. And now when I do that and refresh, sign in, I can get back in.
Beautiful.
And then we can try it again. Let's try misspelling it again, right? As soon as I misspell it, it should kick me out because it knows my identity. Even it knows my identity as hamel.husain@gmail.com from GitHub. And it knows all of a sudden, oh, it's not in that file now.
For you.
Do you want to try the next step?
Yeah, let's do the next step.
Okay, so the next step is before we let you try the next step, it just tells you like you can change this list. It tells you a little bit about how OAuth works. It tells you about authentication, tells you about authorization, whatever. And then tells you what's going on with the footnotes. We don't have to read that right now because I already described it. Let me stop sharing and let me give it, you start sharing.
Okay, first tutorial, and it now tells me to get a domain. Okay, Render is a hosting service that provides a generous free tier. We just have to learn a little bit about the YAML, but if you did the first tutorial, it will be approachable.
So you have the OAuth app. It says create another one, but you don't really have to create another one.
Yes.
What you can do is just go into the one you already have and change the URLs.
I'm updating the application.
Great.
Lovely. Let's see the next step.
Yeah, fork this repo.
Is it not the same repo that I forked
No, it's
before?
not the same repo. You'll understand like why it's different in a second. So this is this is basically a simple static site.
Oh, look,
and it just has this render.yaml in it.
Oh, yeah. Okay, and it's just this render.yaml
You have this one extra file. Okay,
Mhm.
so what does this file do? So I do explain it in the README of this repo, but let's talk about it. The first thing, so you have this YAML file. This is specific to this render product. And this render product is like a serverless platform. It's actually made by a FastAI alum. I don't know if you remember taking some FastAI courses and there was this Cressel thing, Cressel for notebooks. And that person pivoted off of that. So this notebook hosting to general hosting.
No way.
And they created this company called Render. And it's actually really popular.
Render is
and
huge.
It's a great service. Really. You'll like it. When I show you what's going to happen, you're going to really like it. What it is like, okay, you have services, you have, services, that's the boilerplate. The type, that just tells you which one of their products do you want to use. So we want to host Docker containers in their cloud. We want to host this a Docker container. So that's called a web service. So that's why type equals web. You can name it whatever you want. You want the plan, you want the free plan. By default, you're not going to go on the free plan and ask for payment, but we want to do the free plan. Environment is just like what the runtime is. You can choose from like many of them, Python, Ruby, whatever. The most flexible one obviously is Docker. So we're going to use Docker. Then you can pass environment variables. So this is how you pass environment variables to the Docker container is you list the environment variables. Sync false. That just means that it's going to prompt you for that value before it launches. Does generate value true? Okay. You know how you made that OAuth proxy cookie secret with a Python command? Yeah. You remember that? So that's a very common thing to do. This cookie secret. So they just said we'll just generate that for you. Just don't worry about it. Just generate this random string. So that is you don't have to worry. You don't have to do that. And then we're going to serve on port 10,000. Now you might be wondering, why is it OAuth 2, the environment variable here is this OAuth 2 proxy HTTP address. Okay. That just tells you where it's going to receive HTTP traffic. So you might be wondering, well, why is it receiving, I thought we were doing HTTPS. Why is it receiving HTTP traffic? Why is it receiving unencrypted traffic? That's because Render is going to take care of the SSL and the encryption for you. It's going to put a load balancer in front of this for you, and put something else in front of this that's going to catch that traffic and decrypt it and send it to this proxy. And so your proxy is going to receive HTTP. And Render, you know how we have to bind ports and stuff in Docker? Well, Render just automatically detects the HTTP port that's open, and it'll just bind it for you automatically. So you don't have to do -p, whatever. It just knows whatever it needs to do. And the same thing. And so environment variables, how we pass that in as arguments. So actually OAuth 2 proxy allows you to define these, a lot of those arguments as environment variables. And so that we're just using the environment variable approach. So, okay, so that's the first part. The second part is this Docker file. You have to like specify this Docker file. And so this is a very minimal this is the Docker file. So we just use the same Docker container. And just to make it like super simple, copy the email list into the container, like the whitelist, just copy it. And we also copy the static files. So first copies the email list and the static files, and then all this, yeah, and this basically you can understand all these commands now because you already did this before.
Yes.
None of this is new, and that's
Okay.
it. And so the way this works is anytime you update this repository, it will rebuild the Docker container and reserve it.
Oh,
Okay.
yes, right. So render can serve your repository. So we will be serving this repository of yours, right?
Yeah, but we're gonna use yours because
Or
you
I can
forked it.
fork it.
Yeah, you
I
should
don't
fork
think I
it.
forked it. I just cloned it.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's fork it. Let's do it.
Let me fork it. Okay.
Okay, so you did the setup. So keep going. You already did this part. You already set up the OAuth app. You already forked the repo. You don't need to change the content of your site. And then like click okay. So number 4, click this link to deploy the app. So yeah, click that.
So it will take me to blueprints.
Blueprints. Okay, so create a new blueprint instance. Yeah, do that. So this is a blueprint. We're gonna create it from the repo. So connect to GitHub. And does it look familiar? Like they're using OAuth too. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a very common pattern. But now you kind of understand at least a little bit about what's happening. And they're using OAuth for more than just they're getting more information. They're able to read your repos. Now, yeah, give it access to the repository that you just forked.
Was it this one?
Yeah, I don't think you have
Render.
great. Yeah, it definitely is that one. Okay, so name it something.
It's the client ID. And I have proxy client secret. I have it here, I
In your
believe.
super secret. Yeah, there you go. Super secure
And
situation.
permanent storage, yes. Deploy
Okay,
successfully.
so click on that. Yeah. Now we're gonna configure your domains. Go to settings. It's not gonna work yet because we want to point at your domain. So keep scrolling down till you see something about domains.
Custom domains.
Add custom domain.
Yay! It works. I will just have to.
There we go. So you can't get in.
And I'm forbidden.
You're forbidden. But I can get in.
You
I
can
can
get in
prove it.
because you're
So I
in
can.
the email list. Oh, there we go. And now the highly complex operation of
Yeah, then you can add yourself here.
will we manage to change the text file? Arrow small. Okay, at
And why don't
gmail.com.
you take me off
Oh,
just for
take you.
fun? Yeah, take
Yeah,
me off. See what
no more
happens.
access to my super awesome site for you,
Yeah.
Hamel.
Now commit it.
Commit directly to main.
All right, and
And
now
now
go to render.
look at this, deploy in progress. Amazing.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
And it's all for
And
free. That's quite fascinating that you can get this type of functionality for free.
it's a really
Okay.
good site. It's built really nicely, I think. And
So it was not letting me
no,
in.
it's not gonna work right now. It's gonna do weird stuff. So
Deploy
just wait.
succeeded.
Yeah, it's okay. So look, you got in.
Deploy succeeded. It deployed our new email list txt as the file with authorized email addresses to access the site. So, Hamel, now that I kicked you off, are you unable to access the site?
Well, let me show you.
Yeah, show us.
I just tried twittermasterclass.com and I can do
Forbidden.
forbidden. Twittermasterclass.com. Forbidden. So it works like it's supposed to. You make a change. So yeah, like let's say you do a paid course one day called Twitter Masterclass. where you teach people about Twitter, and you have a page you want to make private only to your paid students, then you could use this. But let's say you like the email list, you could like hook up some automation that just like changes the email list automatically depending on something or the other. Or you could just delete people or whatever,
I bet you can do this in a lot of ways, even
Yeah.
probably using something like Zapier or something like that.
Yeah. So I think, I don't know, what do you think? Do you think this is useful tech
I
that
think
you
it
might
is
use?
useful. I think it is useful. I like how simple it is, and
It's really nice with render, right? Because with render, you just push it
exactly.
and just does it, and it does all the HTTPS for you. Like the HTTPS is kind of a pain. Like if you do it yourself, like it's a lot of steps. It's like
And
I don't really like doing that.
thank you so much, my friend.
All right, thank you.
Talk soon.
All right, see ya.
Bye bye.